The black janitor found a letter in the trash. It was from his daughter who died. Years ago. "Sir, don't touch that. It's garbage." The voice came from across the hallway, sharp and dismissive. The janitor paused mid-step, his old hands gripping the edge of the bin. The airport floor gleamed under fluorescent lights, but Mr. Thomas Green, the black janitor everyone called Old Tom, was the only one who saw the beauty in what others threw away. He looked up slowly. A young supervisor in a fancy uniform was watching him with disgust. Tom gave a tired smile. "Son," he said gently, "one man's trash can hold another man's truth." The supervisor rolled his eyes and walked away. Tom sighed and leaned over the bin again. His back ached from 30 years of mopping floors and cleaning the messes of people who never learned to look down. Inside the bin was a pile of crumpled receipts, half-eaten sandwiches and a folded letter, sealed, clean and out of place. Something about it made his heart stop. He picked it up carefully, smoothing it against his palm. The envelope was white, the handwriting delicate and neat. "To my dad," it read. The words punched the air out of his lungs. His fingers trembled as he turned it over. The edges were smudged, the paper soft like it had been handled over and over again. He looked around. The hallway was empty now, just the hum of the cleaning machines and the echo of his heartbeat. Slowly, he tore the envelope open. Inside was a single page, written in blue ink. "Dear Dad, I'm sorry I ran away. I thought I hated you for leaving, but now I understand. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I'm sorry you missed my graduation, but I know you were proud of me anyway. I love you. Always." Michelle Green Tom dropped the letter. His knees buckled, one hand catching the mop cart for balance. His eyes blurred. Michelle, his daughter's name. The daughter he buried 10 years ago. No, this can't be real, he whispered, his voice shaking. She's gone. He picked up the letter again, pressing it against his chest. His breath trembled as he read the last line. One more thing scribbled at the bottom in shaky handwriting. "If someone finds this, please give it to my father. He works at the airport. His name is Thomas Green, his name, written by her hand." Tears slid down his face as the janitor whispered to the empty hallway, "How did you find your way back to me, baby girl?" And then, from behind him, a voice said quietly, "Sir, where did you get that letter?" Tom turned, heart pounding. The janitor froze, his breath caught halfway between a sob and a prayer. He turned slowly, the letter still trembling in his hand. Standing behind him was a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, dressed in a faded airport vest, the kind the new hires wore. She had tired eyes, but there was something in them that made Tom's heart jolt, something familiar. I'm sorry," he said, quickly wiping his face. "Didn't mean to cause a scene." The girl shook her head, her voice soft. "That letter. I think it was meant for you." Tom blinked. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "I was cleaning out one of the storage lockers this morning. There was an old envelope inside. Yellowed, sealed, looked like someone left it there years ago. I didn't know what to do with it, so I put it in the lost bin. But it had your name." Tom's mouth went dry. He held up the letter, his fingers shaking. "This one?" She nodded. "Yes, sir. It was tucked inside a small photo frame. I thought someone must have dropped it by mistake." His heart began to hammer. "Did you see what was in the frame?" The girl hesitated, then reached into her bag. She pulled out a small photo, the kind taken in cheap malls back in the day. It was faded and torn at the edges, but clear enough. A young black man with a little girl sitting on his lap. Both laughing. Both happy, Tom's throat closed. That's my Michelle," he whispered, tracing the outline of the girl's tiny smile. "She was 6 in that picture. We took it at Fairview Mall, before everything went wrong." The young worker's eyes softened. "She was your daughter?" Tom nodded slowly, his voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, but she's gone now. Died in a car crash 10 years ago." The girl's face paled. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't know." Tom stared at the letter again, tears returning. How could this show up now? After all these years? Who kept it? Why now? The girl bit her lip. There's something else, sir. Tom looked up. What? She swallowed hard. When I found that locker, there was a small sticker on the back. It said, Property of Michelle Green Foundation. Tom's eyes widened. He stepped closer. Say that again. Michelle Green Foundation, she repeated softly. Does that mean anything to you? Tom's heart dropped. That was his daughter's name, but she'd never mentioned any foundation before she died. Where's that locker? He asked, his voice breaking. The girl looked around nervously. Down in the old terminal basement. The section they closed years ago. But sir, please, Tom said firmly, gripping the letter. Show me. She hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. As they walked toward the old service elevator, the lights flickered above them, and the sound of the airport faded behind. Tom's heartbeat pounded in his ears. His daughter's handwriting. His name. And now, a foundation in her name he never knew existed. When the elevator doors opened into the dark basement, he felt a chill crawl up his spine. The air smelled like dust and memories. The girl pointed toward a row of metal lockers against the far wall. That one, she whispered. Tom stepped forward, his hands shaking. On the rusted door was a sticker, cracked but legible, Michelle Green Foundation. He touched the name with trembling fingers, whispering her name again. Michelle. Then he looked down and froze, because lying beside the locker was a photo ID card with his daughter's face, and it was dated 2 years ago. For a long moment, Tom just stared at the ID card on the dusty floor. His pulse thundered in his ears. The plastic was cracked, the photo slightly faded, but the name was clear as day. Michelle Green. He knelt down slowly, picking it up with trembling fingers. It felt cold, too real to be a ghost from the past. The date stamped in the corner read 2023, 2 years ago. But Michelle had died in 2013. This can't be right, he whispered, voice shaking. This can't be my baby girl. The young worker beside him swallowed hard. Sir, maybe it's someone else with the same name. Tom shook his head. No, look at her eyes. That's my daughter. I'd know that smile anywhere. The girl looked closer, and even she couldn't deny it. The resemblance was undeniable. Same deep brown eyes, same small dimple on her left cheek. Tom felt his knees weaken. He leaned against the locker to steady himself. I buried her, he whispered. I stood over her grave. The worker looked confused. Sir, if she died, then how does this— That's what I'm going to find out, he interrupted. He pulled open the locker door. Inside were old files, boxes, and a dusty binder labeled Michelle Green Foundation. He lifted it out carefully and blew away the dust. His heart pounded as he flipped through the first few pages. Each page was filled with notes, handwritten by Michelle, the same handwriting from the letter. Project, helping abandoned kids finish school. Goal, build something bigger than myself. Maybe Dad will be proud when he finds out. Tom's hands began to shake again. His vision blurred with tears. She had built something in his name, in his memory. He whispered under his breath, You didn't forget me, did you, baby girl? The young worker's voice was soft. Sir, this means she was alive 2 years ago. Tom nodded slowly, breathing hard. Then someone lied to me. Someone made me bury an empty coffin. The girl's eyes widened. You think someone faked her death? He looked up at her, his eyes burning with both fear and determination. I don't know, he said, but I'm going to find out who made me say goodbye to my daughter when she wasn't gone. He turned the page in the binder and froze. There was a photo clipped to one of the papers, a picture of Michelle standing in front of a small building. The sign above the door read, Hope Haven Shelter, founded by Michelle Green. Tom traced the image with his fingers. She opened a shelter. The worker nodded slowly. Sir, that place is still open. It's downtown, near the old Eastbrook bus station. Tom's eyes filled again, but this time with something stronger than grief. Purpose. Then that's where I'm going, he said firmly. The girl hesitated. Sir, it's almost midnight. He turned to her, clutching the letter and the binder to his chest. If my daughter's alive, I've already wasted 10 years. I'm not waiting another minute. The elevator rattled as it carried them back up. Tom's hands shook, but his eyes were alive again, for the first time in years. When the doors opened, the airport was quiet. The janitor walked through it like a man on a mission, the letter of his dead daughter pressed against his heart. But just as he reached the exit doors, the intercom crackled. "Attention. Would Mr. Thomas Green please report to Lost and Found immediately?" He froze. His name. The young worker looked at him nervously. "That's you, right?" Tom nodded slowly. "Yeah, but I didn't lose anything." They exchanged a look. Then Tom whispered, "Unless someone's about to return what I lost 10 years ago." He took a deep breath and turned toward the Lost and Found office. The Lost and Found office sat at the far end of the terminal, a small glass room glowing faintly under flickering fluorescent lights. Tom's steps echoed through the empty hallway, his heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break free from his chest. The young worker followed a few steps behind. "You okay, sir?" He nodded, though his voice came out barely steady. "No, but I gotta do this." Inside, the night clerk, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a warm smile, looked up from her desk. "Mr. Thomas Green?" "That's me," Tom said cautiously. "You called me," the woman nodded. "Yes, sir. Someone dropped something off for you earlier tonight. Said you worked here." Tom frowned. "Dropped something off? Who?" The clerk flipped through her logbook. She didn't give a full name, just said her first name was Mia. She looked real nervous. "Left an envelope and told me to make sure only you got it." Tom's throat tightened. "Did she say anything else?" The clerk hesitated. "Only this," she said. "Tell him I kept my promise." The words hit Tom like thunder. His knees weakened. "Mia? That was Michelle's childhood nickname. Where is it?" he stammered. The clerk handed him a small brown envelope, sealed and carefully folded. His hands trembled as he took it. The handwriting on the front made his heart lurch. It was hers again, looping, soft, the same as the letter from the trash. He tore it open. Inside was a short note and a small key on a silver chain. The note read, "Dad, if you're reading this, I finally did it. I started the foundation. I helped the kids we used to talk about. I couldn't tell you before. It wasn't safe. But now it's time. The truth is in the place where we used to dream. Love, M." Tom's fingers clenched around the note. His vision blurred. "The place where we used to dream?" he whispered. The young worker frowned. "What does that mean?" Tom's voice was soft, heavy with memory. "When Michelle was little, we used to go to Riverside Park. She said it was where she wanted to build our dream house. We'd sit on the swings and talk about the future. That was our place." The girl's eyes widened. "Then that's where she wants you to go." Tom nodded, his breath trembling. "And this key, it must open something there." He looked back at the clerk. "Did she say when she'd be back?" The woman shook her head. "No, sir. But she looked sick, pale, weak. I asked if she needed help, and she said, 'I don't have much time.' Then she left." Tom felt the air leave his lungs. No, not again." He turned to the young worker, his voice fierce but breaking. "Get your coat. We're going to Riverside Park." They hurried out of the airport into the cool night air. The city was quiet, the streets slick from a light drizzle. The cab ride felt endless. Tom stared out the window, clutching the letter in one hand, the key in the other. Every streetlight reflected off his tears. She was alive. She had been alive. But what did she mean by, "it wasn't safe"? When they reached the park, the swings creaked softly in the wind. The place was empty except for the faint hum of the river nearby. Tom walked straight to the old bench where he used to sit with her. His hands shook as he knelt beside it. That's when he saw it, carved faintly into the wood, the initials MG and TG, with a small heart between them. "You really came back here," he whispered. Then his eyes caught something small beneath the bench, a tiny metal box, half buried in the dirt. He dug it out with trembling fingers. The key fit perfectly. Inside the box were photos, dozens of them. Michelle with children, families, people smiling, And in every photo she was holding up a sign that said, "Hope Haven, keep the promise." But at the bottom of the box was a sealed envelope marked, "For Dad, if I don't make it." Tom froze. His breath caught, his body trembling as if the world had stopped moving. He touched the envelope slowly, whispering, "Baby girl, what didn't you make it through?" Tom's fingers trembled as he held the envelope marked, "For Dad, if I don't make it." The world around him seemed to fade. The quiet rustle of trees, the distant hum of the city, even the wind. Everything fell silent except for the sound of his shaking breath. The young worker, standing beside him, whispered softly, "Sir, do you want me to open it for you?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I have to do this myself." He tore the seal open with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter, folded neatly and pressed flat like it had been waiting for years. His daughter's handwriting danced across the page in soft blue ink, full of grace, full of her. "Dear Dad, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it home. But please don't cry for me, not this time. I had to go away for a reason. Do you remember the day I told you I wanted to help kids like me? The ones who grew up scared, hungry, and alone. I found them, Dad. I found them right here in this city. The shelters were full, the streets were cold, and nobody cared. So I made them my family. I started the Hope Haven Foundation in secret. I couldn't tell you because some of the people I was trying to stop, the ones stealing money from the shelters, they would have hurt you to keep me quiet. I stayed hidden to protect you. I used my middle name, Mia, and I worked under fake IDs. But I was sick, Dad. The doctor said it was my heart, the same one Mama died from. I didn't have long, so I spent what time I had helping them, the children who had no one else, and every night when I saw one of them smile, I knew you were proud of me. I never stopped loving you. I just didn't want you to see me dying. I wanted you to remember me as your little girl with big dreams. If you ever find this letter, please go to Hope Haven. The people there need you. Tell them who you are. Tell them I never forgot the promise we made, that love can still change a broken world. I love you, Daddy. Always. Michelle, your little girl, always." The words blurred as tears streamed down Tom's face. He pressed the paper to his chest, his body shaking with quiet sobs. His daughter hadn't disappeared because she stopped loving him. She disappeared because she loved him too much. The young worker, wiping her own tears, whispered, "She was trying to protect you." Tom nodded, barely able to speak. She gave her life helping others, just like her mother. He looked up at the stars through the dark clouds, whispering softly, "You kept your promise, baby girl. You built something good. You gave them hope." The young worker knelt beside him, her eyes red. "Sir, Hope Haven still exists. There's a small building by Eastbrook. Maybe they still run her program." Tom wiped his tears, clutching the letter. "Then that's where I'm going next. If she built it, I'll keep it alive." He placed the letter gently back inside the box, then stood. His hands were still shaking, but his eyes, for the first time in a decade, carried purpose again. As he started walking back toward the park gate, the young worker called out, "Sir, it's past midnight. Are you sure you can go now?" Tom stopped, turning toward her with a faint, broken smile. "You don't wait to chase what's left of love," he said softly. "You follow it before it fades." The rain began to fall. Slow, steady drops that mingled with his tears. And as he walked away under the dim streetlights, clutching the letter to his chest, the words echoed in his mind like a heartbeat he thought he'd lost. Love can still change a broken world. By dawn, the city was waking up, but Thomas Green hadn't slept a second. The letter, folded neatly in his jacket pocket, felt heavier than any weight he had ever carried. The cab rolled slowly through the streets until it stopped outside a rundown neighborhood near Eastbrook Station. And there it was, Hope Haven. The sign above the door was faded, the paint peeling, but the words still stood proud. Hope Haven Shelter, founded by Michelle Green. Tom's chest tightened. He ran his thumb over the carved wooden letters, whispering, You really did it, baby girl. He pushed open the door. The smell of old paint, coffee, and soap filled the air. Inside, a few children sat around a small table eating breakfast. The walls were covered with drawings, colorful crayon hearts, stick figures, and messy rainbows. In the center of it all hung a large photo of Michelle, smiling, holding a group of kids close to her. A woman, maybe in her 30s, came out from the back room holding a clipboard. Her face lit up when she saw him. "Mr. Green?" Tom froze. You know who I am?" The woman nodded, smiling softly. "We've been waiting for you," he blinked. "Waiting for me? Why?" She walked over, setting the clipboard down gently. "Michelle told us that one day her father would come. She said you were her heart, and that if you ever showed up, we were to give you something." Tom's throat tightened. "She said that?" The woman nodded and gestured toward a small office door. "Come with me." Inside the office there were boxes stacked neatly, labeled with children's names, all the kids who had been helped by Hope Haven. She pulled one small box from the shelf and set it on the desk. "This one's for you." Tom opened it slowly. Inside was another letter and a photograph. Michelle sitting beside a little girl in a hospital bed. The child had a shaved head but a bright, joyful smile. "Who's this?" he asked softly. The woman smiled. "That's Lily. She was Michelle's favorite. She battled leukemia. Michelle stayed by her side until the end." Tom stared at the picture, his heart clenching. Is Lily still alive?" The woman hesitated, then smiled sadly. "She passed away 6 months after Michelle did. But before she died, she wrote something for you, too." Tom's eyes widened. "For me?" The woman nodded, handing him a small envelope with colorful stickers on it. In a child's shaky handwriting it said, "To Michelle's daddy." His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a short note written in bright pink marker. "Hi, Mr. Green. Michelle told me about you. She said you used to swing her at the park and call her your sunshine. When she got sick, she said she wasn't scared because she got that sunshine from you. She said you'd come one day and see how many lives your love changed. Thank you for being her light. I'll tell her you made it." Tom pressed the letter against his lips, unable to hold back his sobs. He sank into the chair, shoulders shaking, tears falling freely. The woman put a gentle hand on his shoulder. "She talked about you every day, you know. Every time we helped someone, she'd smile and say, 'That one's for Dad.'" Tom wiped his face, voice trembling. "I thought I failed her. I thought she died hating me." The woman shook her head. "She never hated you, Mr. Green. She became you. Everything you taught her. Kindness, patience, love. She gave it all away until her last breath." Tom stood slowly, looking around the shelter again. The laughter of children filled the air, the same sound he used to love when Michelle was little. He whispered, "I can still feel her here." The woman smiled softly. "That's because she never left. She just found a new way to live. Through them." He nodded, wiping his tears. "Then I'll stay. I'll keep this place running. For her. For Lily. For all of them." The woman smiled through her own tears. That's what she wanted. Tom looked back at Michelle's photo on the wall, her arms around the children, her smile wide and real. "You did it, baby girl," he whispered. "You made me proud." But as he turned to leave the office, he noticed something tucked behind her photo frame. A folded document. Half hidden, he reached out, pulled it free, and froze. It was a bank statement from a private donor, dated 1 month before Michelle's death. The name on it made his blood run cold. William Harding, CEO of Hopewell Corp. The same man who had fired Tom 10 years ago. The same man who told him his daughter's accident was unavoidable. Tom's trembling hand clenched into a fist. "You," he whispered. "You knew." Tom stood frozen in the tiny office, his fingers gripping the paper so tightly it crumpled in his hands. William Harding. That name tasted bitter, like rust and betrayal. 10 years ago, Harding had been the operations director at the freight company where Tom worked as a janitor before moving to the airport. He was powerful, untouchable. The kind of man who smiled at the cameras and stabbed in the dark. Tom remembered. The day clearly. The day Harding told him that. Michelle had been killed in an unavoidable car accident. He'd been the one who gave Tom her supposed death certificate, who arranged the funeral, who even paid for the coffin. Now, looking at the document in his shaking hand, the truth crashed down like lightning. Harding's company had donated to Michelle's shelter just 1 month before she died. He knew she was alive. The woman from the shelter watched him carefully. "Mr. Green, are you okay?" He looked up slowly, his voice low and controlled. "Where did this come from?" She glanced at the paper. "That? It's been here since Michelle passed. We thought it was just one of her sponsors." "Why?" Tom's voice trembled. "Because that man told me my daughter was dead." The room went quiet. Even the air seemed to freeze. "You mean," the woman started, but he cut her off. "He faked her death," Tom said. "He lied to me. And maybe he's the reason she's gone for real this time." He turned toward the door, the fury in his chest burning hotter than it had in years. His grief had been heavy before. Now it was fire. The woman called out, "Mr. Green, please wait," but Tom was already gone. The next morning, Tom stood outside Hopewell Corporate Tower, a tall glass monument that looked like it was built on pride and secrets. He was still in his janitor uniform, mop bucket left in the cab outside. People gave him strange looks as he walked through the revolving doors, clutching Michelle's letter and the donation paper in his weathered hands. But Tom didn't care. At the front desk, a young receptionist smiled politely. "Good morning, sir. Do you have an appointment?" "No," Tom said flatly. "But William Harding knows me." The receptionist frowned. "I'm afraid Mr. Harding is in a meeting." Tom leaned forward, eyes burning. "Tell him it's Thomas Green. Tell him it's about my daughter." Something in his tone made her pause. She picked up the phone, whispered into it, then hung up quickly. "He'll see you." Harding's office was everything Tom remembered. Cold, expensive, and spotless. The man himself sat behind a sleek desk, gray-haired now but still carrying that smug confidence that money gives men without conscience. He smiled as Tom walked in. "Well, I'll be Thomas Green. I thought I'd never see you again." Tom stared at him, every muscle tight. "You told me my daughter was dead." Harding's smile faltered just slightly. "Ah, yes, Michelle. I was very sorry to hear—" "Don't," Tom snapped, slamming the papers on his desk. "Don't you dare say her name like you care. You lied. She was alive. She started a shelter. And your name is all over the funding." "You knew." Harding leaned back, his tone casual. "Mr. Green, you're upset. You don't understand how these things work. Michelle was involved with some dangerous people. I protected you." Tom's eyes widened. "You protected me by burying my daughter alive?" Harding sighed, rubbing his temples. She found out things she shouldn't have. The foundation, the donations. There were transactions that could have ruined this company. She was going to expose it. I had to make sure she disappeared quietly. The words hit like a gunshot. Tom's breath hitched. "You killed her." Harding's voice dropped, cold and dismissive. "She was dying anyway. A weak heart, wasn't it? I just made the inevitable easier." Tom's hands shook as tears streamed down his face. "You're a monster." Harding stood, his smirk returning. "And you're just a janitor. What are you going to do, clean me to death?" For a second, silence hung heavy in the air. Tom's grief turned into something sharp and unbreakable. He stepped closer, his voice steady and deep. "No," he said quietly. "But the world's about to see what kind of man you really are." Harding laughed. "And who's going to believe you?" Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He turned the screen toward Harding. The red light blinked softly, recording. Every word. Harding's smile froze. You recorded me?" Tom's voice was calm, deadly. "Every word you said. And in 2 minutes it'll be uploaded to the Hope Haven Foundation page, the same one you tried to destroy." Harding lunged forward, grabbing for the phone, but Tom stepped back. "Don't," he warned. "You've taken enough from me." Security burst through the door a second later, but it was too late. The upload had already finished. Outside, across the city, notifications pinged. The truth was live. The monster behind the mask had been exposed. Tom turned back one last time, eyes filled with fire and tears. "You took my daughter's life, but you can't bury her light." And then he walked out, leaving Harding shouting behind him as cameras and police sirens began to gather below. Part 8. Love Never Dies. Rain began to fall as Tom stood on the small hill overlooking the city. The sky was gray, heavy, like it carried the same grief sitting in his chest. Below, sirens still echoed faintly from downtown, the sound of justice finally moving. He'd done it. He'd exposed William Harding, the man who stole his daughter's life and tried to bury her memory. The world finally knew who Michelle Green truly was. Not a runaway, not a scandal, not a forgotten girl, but a hero. The headlines hit every news channel by morning. CEO arrested for charity fraud, evidence released by victim's father. Hope Haven founder's legacy inspires millions, yet none of it brought Tom peace. Not yet. Now he stood before a small grave marked Michelle Mie Green, 1989-2023. He had replaced the old headstone himself. The fake one Harding had given him was gone. This one was hers. Fresh flowers lay across it, drenched in rain. A small framed photo of her smiling sat beside them, her eyes bright, alive, eternal. Tom knelt, resting his weathered hands against the stone. His voice trembled. "Hey, sunshine. Daddy kept his promise." His breath hitched. "They know the truth now. The man who hurt you, he'll never hurt anyone again. And your name shines brighter than ever." The rain mingled with his tears. He took the small Hope Haven pin from his jacket and placed it gently on the grave. "You didn't just build a shelter," he whispered. "You built a family. You built hope. You turned my pain into purpose." A soft voice broke through the rain. "Mr. Green?" He turned. Standing behind him was a young girl, no older than 12, holding a small umbrella. She wore a faded blue hoodie with the Hope Haven logo. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said shyly. "I'm one of the kids from the shelter. Miss Michelle used to tell us stories about you. She said her dad was the strongest man she knew." Tom's eyes filled again. He smiled through the tears. "She said that, huh?" The girl nodded. "She said if we ever felt lost, we should find you, 'cause you'd know how to help." Tom felt his heart twist, the ache deep but warm. He reached out, gently taking the umbrella from her and holding it over both their heads. "You staying at Hope Haven now?" She nodded. "They said you're in charge." Tom chuckled softly. "Guess I am." He looked back at the grave one more time. "You see that, baby girl? They still find you, even now." The little girl tilted her head. "Was she your daughter?" He smiled, voice barely above a whisper. "She still is." They stood together in the rain. One man who had lost everything, and one child who'd gained a protector she never expected. After a long silence, Tom finally rose. "Come on, sweetheart," he said softly. "Let's get you home." As they walked down the hill toward the street, the clouds began to break. A single beam of sunlight pierced through, landing directly on Michelle's grave. Tom stopped, looking back at the light shimmering on her name. He whispered to himself, "You kept your promise, Michelle. Now it's my turn." The girl tugged on his sleeve. "What promise, Mr. Green?" He smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. "That love never dies, baby. It just finds new hearts to live in." They walked together toward Hope Haven, a father reborn, a child redeemed, and a legacy of love carried forward. Moral of the story: love doesn't end with death. It continues through every act of kindness, every soul we heal, and every promise we keep. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it into light, and that light never fades.